You're listening to the WCEG network on WCEGTalkRadio.com, the worldwide community empowerment group. Like us on Facebook, where we are streaming live. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Instagram. You can call in or Skype in, but join our conversation. Ask questions and make comments. We have a full house today and a full schedule. We're going to talk about immunization because it's time for summer camp. And youth must have proof of immunization. Plus, there are some adult immunizations that are needed. But first, we're going to talk about the new rage, which is CBD oil or cannabis oil. It's trending right now, but is it safe and is it effective? I'm Myrna Taylor Ransom. I'm your host today, and joining me right now, we have our traveling nurse, Ms. Pamela Davis, and we have our doctor, one of our regular doctors, Dr. Janella Thomas Burse. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to be back.
Good to be back. Huh? What is so special about
described? So the things we're seeing now, the fibromyalgia and all this, even the cancer rates, are
and the eyes
it's just crazy now. I mean, growing up, you didn't hear people with cancer like you're hearing it now.
Right.
And we know that our environment plays a big part of that. But what else in our environment and history has helped us, our bodies, get back into balance, back into homeostasis? And that is what CBD or cannabidiol oil does. Okay, so it's part of the cannabis family. Again, like I said,
it is a type of medical marijuana.
Well, technically, marijuana, the term marijuana is reserved for what we know of as marijuana, with its own type of cannabidiol, which is tetrahydrocannabidiol. Okay, so that is the THC, that's the psychoactive portion of it. But we want to have the health medical benefits of cannabis without that psychoactive part. Because we don't want to be walking around like that all the time. And also because, to be truthful, it's illegal in most states. So in the majority of states, the quote-unquote marijuana. And historically, they didn't even use that term marijuana. They just said cannabis. Marijuana is a relatively new term.
Right.
And, and during that time, physicians were prescribing cannabis. It was in the majority of medicines. So, and they worked.
And let me stress that all of my information keeps saying non-intoxicating,
non-psychoactive. Don't say marijuana.
Okay. Cannabis.
Because we know what we think of as marijuana nowadays. So we want to say cannabis or just say CBD. So CBD, cannabis. There are lots of cannabis plants, and the THC and CBD or cannabidiol are two of the types of cannabis.
Okay.
But the big difference is where we're getting it. Okay, so we're getting it from the hemp plant, which again has been around for thousands and thousands of years. It was a huge crop in the U.S. until 1937 when politics played a role in getting rid of it because people wanted to make money off of other things. So they finagled Congress to get rid of hemp. But it's been used. The first flag was made out of hemp. The Declaration of Independence was written on hemp. So it's been around, and you can go back to in India and find artifacts made of hemp for thousands of years ago.
Now, this is legal in 30 states or so right now?
Hemp now is legal in all 50 states.
Okay.
As of December, the Farm Bill passed and made hemp legal, which is why you're hearing CBD left and right nowadays. But the thing about it, you have to be really careful because when things like that happen, you have to be careful where you're getting your CBD from. Where is that hemp growing? And just also to distinguish hemp from marijuana, the plants look different. Marijuana is kind of a short, bushy, stubby plant. Hemp is a tall, lanky plant. Marijuana is majority THC, the psychoactive cannabis, whereas hemp is the majority CBD. Or cannabidiol, the non-psychoactive cannabis.
She keeps
the
stressing
non-psychoactive cannabis. So they're very different plants, with very different properties in them. Each plant has over really 400 chemical compounds in it, but we know about over 85, almost 100, there are cannabis type chemical compounds that our body actually is made for. And back, when was that? In January I was here, we were talking about pregnancy.
Right.
And we talked about when the heart is formed. It begins to form like at 4 weeks, but it's really just this tube. But by 8 weeks, 8 gestational weeks or 10 pregnancy weeks, it's fully a 4-chamber heart. Well, we have receptors for cannabis in our body by 16 days.
Really?
So you would naturally think that the things that develop earliest are the most important for life. Okay? So we need it. Research has found those receptors. We have receptors all through our central nervous system, which is why it's a neuroprotectant in our immune system and our reproductive system.
Wow.
And our body actually makes that 2 of that we know of right now. There may be more endocannabinoids or cannabinoids that our body makes, and it's secreted in breast milk. So, there's this we're going to talk about immunization, and we know in the news lately it's about people not getting immunized against measles, and we have this big outbreak. But, what comes out in breast milk helps the baby with immunization and whatnot. So people are scared of autism, but CBD has been shown to help with autism. So maybe we're getting autism because our system is depleted of cannabidiols.
And so now there's the new rage, and it's back to
a renewed rage. Where they say nothing in the earth is new.
Yeah, right.
Nothing is new.
Nothing under the sun. It's just
nothing
new
under
players.
the sun is new. We just
No
find
new
different
games,
things to
just
do
new
with
players.
it. Right. Exactly.
But now we're talking about in the event of chronic pain and epilepsy and different
Parkinson's. So remember I said we have receptors where? In our neurologic system.
Yeah,
so that's why it helps with these
neurological
things.
system.
MS. Anxiety, depression, and all
Pain,
those things.
yes.
Pain. It works. It binds to our receptors because we have receptors that are only made for this. That runner's high that people talk about. It's because of what's released endogenously in our body.
Right.
But again, I do want to stress, there's a lot of CBD out there, and the thing about the hemp plant, it's a sustainable plant. It's a plant that's important for the earth. It's an active plant. It takes toxins out of the earth. It puts good things back in the earth. So if we're growing it around here where the airplanes are, we don't want that hemp.
Right.
If it's grown where, pesticides and herbicides and it's, genetically modified materials in there, we don't want that hemp because then that's what we're taking in. So then we've lost the benefits of it.
Right. So you want the free and unencumbered.
Right. And so you're not going to know. You're not going to know. And there was on the news they studied. They took samples of different companies, what out there, their CBD, and most of the time what they had on the label was not in it. So you may see something that says 50 milligrams of CBD. It may not be. It may not be.
So you have to really be careful as to where.
You have to be careful where it's coming from, who's processing it, how it's being processed. Is it being processed by chemicals? Is the CBD oil being extracted by chemicals? How are they doing this? So that's so please, you have to be very careful, if you're
And
going.
they did say they wanted to. News did mention there would be certain places they prefer you to go to, but they didn't mention the places as of yet.
Right. And you can go, you can do your own, research to find the top companies, companies that are on the forefront, doing research even, are they giving back? Just like hemp gives back to the earth, is that company giving back to the community? So, and those companies are out there. There's one, if you look in the physician's desk reference, I think they call it the prescriber's desk reference now, PDR, about, you get it online now, but it's a big fat red book. But there's one CBD in there, oil in there from a company called Cannaway. So that's a company that's on the forefront. So their CBD is the only one in there. They're one of the 13 companies that receive the hemp certification from the hemp.
So there
people.
is certification, because a
Right,
lot
you
of the
want
research
to,
was
yeah.
saying that it's not.
It's not regulated.
It's not
It's
regulated.
not regulated
Okay.
because, it is not an FDA approved, regulated
So
thing,
do we
but-
need FDA approval?
for.
I
mean,
is it?
I mean, as a physician, I guess I'm supposed to say, yeah,
You're
you want
supposed to
FDA,
say yes.
but it's considered a supplement. So we know there's supplements we need that don't need FDA approval. But again, because those things are supplements aren't FDA approved, that's why you have to be diligent and find out where you're getting it from. Okay, that's the main thing. So no, we don't need it, but then you have to be smart and do your research, which is what's scary. It's just like, anything else you get on the street, you have to be careful.
Right.
But it could speaking of the street, it will put a huge dent. I mean, we're talking about the opioid crisis. This will help the opioid crisis. Mm-hmm. Do we want it to? That's the question. When the FDA is continuing to approve more and more opioids that are even stronger than the ones we have now, we need it.
I was thinking more of if there was a way that they can have, how should I say it? Excuse me, some kind of way that they can actually inform them a little bit more. Because there's a lot of people thinking, hey, we can get this oil and we ready now. They have the wrong idea.
Right, they have the wrong idea.
And we need some more information out there.
Right, and being the capitalist society we are, there are people who are going to take advantage of those people. So they're just going to throw whatever, like I said, put whatever on the label. We don't read labels half the time anyway. We just read the front thing, and that's not what matters.
The title, the label said it was CBD oil.
Right. So we do have to be very smart about it, because people will take advantage of those who, like, okay, I saw it on Groupon too, so let me get these off of Groupon. I don't know.
Say Groupon.
Was I allowed to say that?
You're allowed.
It's not bashing Groupon. It's just saying, just like any other store, you don't know. Anybody can sell it.
When I was in Miami, I went to a lot of the different sun stores and swimsuit stores, and it was being sold there. I mean, it was behind the counter, and you could buy it, and I mean, you can even get the vapes.
And that's one of the 4 ways of ingesting it. People like vape, you think bad, but vaping is just a way. It's almost like asthma meds. Vaping is just a way of getting medicine in your body, or getting a compound in your body. So vaping is actually a great way to take in CBD, because it goes into your bloodstream immediately. If you have something going on that you need some quick, vaping is great. Or putting it under the tongue, or what's called sublingual, that gets into your system quickly, as opposed to swallowing, which you can swallow the oil or the capsules, or there's gum out there, coffee, tea. So you can get CBD, and people are, just like with marijuana, people are experimenting with how to put it in different foods and liquids to ingest it. So that's a way to get it, but it does take longer to get in your system that way. But if you put it on your tongue or vape it, those are good ways. There are salves, as you know about, lotions and salves you can put on a joint if you have knee problems. Yep, exactly. That doesn't get into your system. It just goes right into the area.
What about it for little people, younger people?
Oh, you can definitely give it to them. Like I said, for kids with autism, it's been shown to help them greatly. ADHD.
Really?
They calm completely.
Yes.
Calm down.
Yes.
And for them, that would be, the gum would be great, because you may not want them to vape it or whatever, and but you can put the oil in their juice too, but it calms them down without changing them. So that's what they complain about, especially with the ADHD meds. It takes away their appetite. They're not themselves. They're not
active. They're like
zombies. They're zombies. Right. But this doesn't do that to them. It relaxes them, but they're still them, and they're allowed to be a better them.
Right. They can focus better.
They can focus.
They want to participate.
They want to, because they want to be a part. They can't. They can't help it. They really cannot help it. And then I see parents giving them more sugar and things that they don't need, that's going to send them off the rails, No. So, but this is great for them, and you can dose it down for them.
When you say dose it down, you mean
As far as how much they're getting. Now, you
Okay,
really
okay.
can't, and that's the one good thing about CBD. I mean, when you get a prescription for something, these are the side effects, these are the risks. So you're like, risk benefits, I need to weigh these things. But you don't really have to do that with CBD because side effects, I mean, if you take too much, you're going to get sleepy. That's about it.
And that's about it.
You can't OD.
Fatigue, that's it.
Yeah.
Diarrhea,
take too much,
you have to
you're
take a lot to
Right.
get diarrhea.
You'd have to take a lot.
A
And
lot.
nobody's going to take that much. You know,
Right.
nobody's going to do that much. So you're going to get sleepy first. But as far as the only other thing is if somebody's on a blood thinner, you have to be careful. Doesn't mean they can't take it, but it can potentiate that. It can thin the blood too, just like Motrin
okay.
can. You know, the nonsteroidals, those can do that too. So people on blood thinners just have to be real careful and hope their doctor is on board and will help monitor them.
And speaking of doctors, it will probably be best for the patients to tell the doctor that they're going to try the CBD oil with certain medications as well.
Right, because it is clear. Like if you're like I said, if you're inhaling it, the vape or putting on the tongue, you don't have to worry about that as much. But if you're ingesting it, because it digests through the liver, like other medications,
okay.
a lot of medications are metabolized through the liver. Then those you may just need to space them out, like take it 2 hours after you take your regular medications or something like
So
that.
what about people with transplants like not liver, kidney, and other
Now
transplants?
those you have to be careful of too, but it's a different reason. It's because this helps your immune system. But if they've had a transplant, they don't want their immune system up. They're taking medications to what? Keep it down.
Yes.
So yeah, that is an issue with them, which is very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. But it's going to be interesting, which is why it's so sad that all these years since 1937 that it's been out of our
Reach.
because all these things we would know by now. You know, there's some research out there, and you know we know certain things, but as far as we would know so much more. So sometimes it's more of a theoretical thing, but it may not be an actual thing, such as the transplant. We know that we haven't been doing transplants for that long, really. So we really don't know if that's a real effect or not. But you're going to err on the side of caution. But also with cancer patients, not a contraindication, but a help with cancer patients.
That CBD oil really helps with
The
cancer
nausea,
patients.
just keep them not throwing
I guess
up
who
his
are
head.
undergoing treatment.
Yeah,
though.
if you're undergoing treatment, or for those who, whatever their reasons are, not wanting to do, they want to do alternative. They don't want to do traditional for whatever. I'm not advocating one or the other. I am a physician, so I believe in a lot of the traditional things. But you might as well take that if you're not going to take something else. But if you are doing the traditional, taking chemo and whatnot, it will help with the nausea, and it will help. Some studies have shown, or people have seen, that it's helped with the cancer itself.
Kill some cells. I was looking at that.
And again, you're not talking about risk
Chemotherapy
benefits.
can be pretty strong and deteriorating on the body.
Energy, zaps your energy. But this, people are saying when they take this, they're able to tolerate it a lot better. About the other medicines, so to speak, that you take this medicine for this reason, but then you have something else that happens because you're
Something to
taking that
help you.
medicine.
Right. And that's because the side effects are sometimes just really
They're
tremendous.
really- and some people refuse the chemo because of the side effects.
And yeah, I know several people that have said they won't undergo that chemotherapy anymore because it just doesn't kill the bad cells.
Right, it kills the good ones, and
kills the good- it kills
they're like,
all of
if I'm yeah, exactly. So this is something that will help them.
And then they experience the weakness from the
Extreme
chemotherapy.
fatigue, yes, from the chemo.
Yeah, I think
Just
that's-
doing the research of the CBD oil, I know they wanted to keep it away, like you said, in the 30s and the 50s. I noticed they even went as far as scheduling it.
Schedule of 1. A Schedule 1 means
I couldn't believe it.
that
Made it a
you're not going
narcotic.
to get it.
Are you
Right,
serious?
made it a narcotic.
I'm-
And it's all politics. From what I've read, when you read, Randolph Hearst was the big paper person.
Yes,
DuPont was coming out with nylon and the plastics, and somebody else was coming out with something else. So some got the Congress people. They were getting ready to make quote unquote marijuana illegal. So they said, here, put hemp in there too. Hemp was huge, you know, huge crop. Our forefathers brought it here. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it was already here. But,
it was.
you know, it's a resilient plant. You don't have to worry about so much the climate it's growing in. It's resilient. It's going to figure out how to grow. That tells you something. You know, that tells you something too.
You're right, because after I looked at a little research and went back a little further, I went back as far as 2900 BC.
BC.
Wow.
You can
really?
go 9,000 years ago. And they have remnants because they use parts of the plant for clothing, like I said, paper, industry. They fed the livestock with it, which is one reason why we got it in our system too, because the animals were eating it. We ate the animals, so we had plenty of CBD in the environment and around. And
it kind of tells us about the ones that's over 21 in here. That's why we're a lot stronger and we feel a lot better. And it just blows our mind to see what's happening now, because back in the day, you may have heard of someone that had cancer, but now
everybody knows somebody. Everybody knows somebody.
Right.
Everybody knows somebody. But you're right. But we also, you know, this is kind of a little off topic, but we just have to get smart. You know, our society here is about money. And if we're going to become addicted to sugar and this and that and other, they don't care because they know you're going to keep buying it. But if we educate ourselves, first of all, education takes away the fear, so we don't have that misconception about hemp, marijuana, cannabis. When you hear the word cannabis, you're not going to freak out because you know. But you also know about other things, because it's about your health. We're not talking about getting high, having a good time. We're talking about feeling good so you can have a good time, and being healthy so you can have a good time in your life. But we have to educate ourselves and then try to figure out what individually, how can I get myself off of this sugar and all this stuff and all
That's
this
a good
stuff.
question.
Because you see, we drive it because McDonald's and everybody, they started changing their menu when we started changing.
Right.
So we drive it. We can say, this is what we want. And we demand it, they will give it.
Yeah.
Correct.
And it is our responsibility.
It's our responsibility. You only have one body. We only have one earth. We're not getting a new body, and we're not getting a new earth.
No body transplants here.
So we don't want people to think, okay, we don't have to take medication. We can just automatically switch to CBD oil. We don't want them to.
Don't throw away your medications and come back.
It's like, here it is. We found it.
Right. You need to. You may be the one educating your physician. You're hearing this. A lot of us as physicians don't know much about CBD. We're starting to hear it too, just like everybody else. But because a lot of them don't know, they're afraid too, and they're going to tell you no. So you may be the one that's going to come in and do your research and bring some articles and blah blah and tell them this is the history. This is why CBD isn't in your medicines now. If this hadn't happened, you would have been prescribing it. Right? If this hadn't happened, you would have been prescribing. It would have been no big deal. In fact, the American Medical Association was against that act in 1937.
Yes, ma'am.
They were prescribing. They were against this act. Now the American Medical Association, right, they don't know that history, so they're going to say no, but hopefully they will come around.
Yeah, if there was a little bit more research, maybe.
It's coming. It's out there. And actually, the U.S. has sponsored research in Israel for the past 50 years on cannabis.
Okay.
So the U.S. knows. The government knows. They know.
Uh-oh.
But now we're starting to know.
Okay, yeah. No,
But they don't want us to know.
That will help.
Yes.
That Americans know more about this. That will help bring it to the forefront, because there are a lot of drives across the country for legalization and for making sure that it is included in our medical pharmacies now.
Right. And just know that, hemp is legal now as of December in all 50 states. Now, each state may have some kind of variation on what they're going to allow because, they are somewhat autonomous, but it is federally legal, all 50 states. Mm-hmm. And it's not just the U.S., it's the whole world. Other countries are finally, too, they're more receptive because they actually, really promote more so the health of their people over corporation. But it's spreading all over the world.
Besides us trying to help inform everyone for their good, mm-hmm. what else can we do to inform them besides telling them, like right now, would you suggest, besides them telling their doctor, do you think they should mention it in schools? Should we suggest something during the lunchtime?
Well, it takes us a minute. So obviously before it hits the schools, it's going to have to go through the school boards and all of that, right, which means education. We won't be scared if we're educated and understand what it's about and that it's not harmful. So, and that we're not giving kids marijuana. Okay. And what's crazy in Georgia, as we know, and I think the governor just signed the bill, they made medical marijuana legal, but they couldn't get it. Yeah. Couldn't grow it here. You couldn't go buy it and bring it. So now they're making those changes. So, I'm sure eventually, I think, as some people say, we will be what some of our parents saw with prohibition. We may see the full legalization of all cannabis in our lifetime.
The majority of people that moved away from Georgia to get this CBD oil for their kids that autism or whatever.
Because it worked. The seizures. Because it worked.
If it didn't work, they wouldn't have moved.
They wouldn't go through all that trouble. You've seen kids go from having 60, 80, 100 seizures a day to a few or none. If that's your child, you're going to do whatever you can to get it. And there is a story, I think it's on Netflix, about that, how it became legal in Brazil. Because it was illegal in Brazil, but there was a group of women who were on this blog or Facebook page talking about their kids with seizures. And there's a lady in Texas who put her child on the CBD, seizures none. So a lady in Brazil saw that. So the lady in Texas, mama's going to do what mama's going to do. The lady in Texas was shipping it to her in Brazil. And it got confiscated one time. But fortunately, when it got to the courts, it was a good, sensible, progressive judge saw the improvement of this child with the CBD, and they made it legal. Right. But in Brazil, it's by prescription only. So it's not, so they can't just go. It's legal for I think they prescribe it for 11 different indications, including like Parkinson's, in Brazil and Mexico. So we know it works. And it's crazy is a lot of my peers obviously are physicians, but it's falling on deaf ears a lot of times. They're looking at me like, whatever. I'm like, okay, I'm talking to you not just for your patients. Some people I'm talking to because I know their family members have X, Y, and Z. That you're concerned about your family members having X, Y, and Z, and that you could get it too. So why not?
And if the patients are talking to the doctors and the doctors are kind of push away from it and kind of hush, that's not really a good thing. They really need to have a little bit more information so they can discuss it with their...
We need to do it like the pharmaceutical companies do. They pay us a visit, right?
Of course, of course.
And tell us about their new medication.
Of course.
And we say, okay, and we start writing it.
Or giving it.
So we may have to do that. Pay our doctor's offices a visit. But we need to learn. Because again, I can't stress enough. If 1937 hadn't happened, we would have been prescribing it anyway.
Correct.
It would already be in the mix, right?
Right. It's in the PDR now.
And can't you just see in your mind's eye? I'm not going to church right now.
Right.
But the people that's past us that already knew this, and they're like, oh, now they want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Right. because they knew.
Mm-hmm.
My daddy knew.
Right.
My daddy knew. It's
Right.
like the other generation, they knew. I mean, you just have to wait till it come up and get everybody else on board, basically.
Right.
Because everybody knew. It's new to some people.
It's new to some. And, most of us, we grew up, you obey authority and whatnot. So you're like,
For the most part.
Cannabis. Cannabis, no. But, again, can't stress enough, this is non-psychoactive. You're not going to have the cognitive effects with marijuana that you have with marijuana. You will not be walking around like that.
In a daze or something.
In a daze or just, you may be, relaxed because your body's in homeostasis, is balanced, is able to fight whatever insults are coming at it better.
And my thing, it would be with depression on the rise. Why
Huge.
not?
Huge.
It's a daily thing now.
Huge.
Just like cancer, someone with depression.
It's huge. Or any, like we said before, any other psychologic, neurologic problem, everybody knows somebody or more than one person. So, we could all benefit.
Joining us right now, we have Dr. Chivon Stubbs.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We're talking about cannabis oil right now. What's your perspective on that?
Well, I think I am inclined to agree with these beautiful ladies here before me. Some of the thoughts that they have, I really agree. There are some uses, and I think that we do have to educate our patients carefully about these type of things. But it could be very beneficial in certain disease processes, like seizures and like Parkinson's disease that she was speaking of. So I think it's very important to educate our patients properly on the uses of these and really distinguishing the difference between different oils and just plain marijuana, and so that parents understand the differences and the impact that it could have on improving overall health and well-being.
How long does it take before we can see some differences or see some improvements in our health when we're taking
Well, everybody's
CBD
different.
oil?
That's the one thing with no matter what you take, we're individuals. So, people always say, I don't want to be a guinea pig, but we're always our own guinea pig because we never know. You may be able to eat strawberries and I may be allergic, whatever, So, so everybody will respond differently. Like I've seen people have an immediate response sometimes with that salve. If they have an achy joint or whatever, they put that salve on it, and I guess you would say, is that a placebo effect? But I guess I've seen it happen too many times to say that. And so we're all different. And then it depends on what that disease or disorder process that we're looking at. If somebody's had something going on for years, it may take 2 or 3 months, 60 to 90 days before you see something, notice something. The other thing, if you're talking about prevention, you're not going to be able to put your finger on that, only as you live that you're not getting X.
Right, right.
But even with the salve, somebody gets a headache, and it's a temporal headache, and I've seen it when they rubbed it on their temples, the headache goes away. And again, it's not voodoo, it's not magic, it's science. We have receptors in our body for this. So there's a reason.
Actually, it's like, you remember back in the day, was it Watkins, where you had the liniment? And you
It probably has CBD in it.
No, I don't remember that.
I don't remember that.
Okay, I'm the only one over 21. Okay. Like you said, when you rub that on the joints or the temporal headaches or whatever, same with the CBD oil.
Yeah.
Basically, it's the same thing. So you're right. You will get
Some people have
suddenly.
immediate.
And suddenly, sometimes the pain just disappears, right?
Suddenly.
And with kids, parents have said, they pretty quickly see, not like the next day, but pretty quickly see a difference with the ADD or the autism, a little bit more aware. They definitely will tell you. There are a lot of testimonials out there regarding that.
I witnessed a few of my clients and patients that special need autism, and it works wonders. So they go from being combative, yes ma'am.
So I just got some to try. So I'm going to see if it works on anything that I have.
You should. I mean,
Can't hurt anything.
when I talk to people, being a physician, I will ask their history to, try to get a feel. But I know a lot of people are out there genuinely selling it that aren't physicians. So, but they need to learn too. If you're selling it, you need to be aware of, organ transplant. If you're on a blood thinner, things like that, to say, okay, well, your doctor needs to be on board because you need to be monitored more closely than somebody without those. But those are basically the only two things. And if, like I said, if you're taking medication, you might want to take it a couple hours before or after, just in case there's competing in that metabolism in the liver.
So, or maybe ask your doctor before you mix it.
Well, you should ask your doctor regardless.
Okay.
They may not know.
The
And that's, just
interaction.
like I said before, they may say no because they don't know. You may be the one educating your doctor.
But we could probably assume that there will be less interaction because one is a natural
Well, you
product.
still have to be careful with nature.
Okay.
I always say poison ivy is natural.
Yeah, that's true. And a lot of different supplements that people naturally take as well will have interactions with
Medication.
certain prescribed medications. So it's definitely something I agree you should speak with your physician about prior to starting.
Right. And we'll have to look things up too, because, we don't have, when people come in and they're saying, I'm taking this herb, that herb, blah, blah, blah. I have to look it up because, remember, again, a lot of our medicines are based on some kind of herbal derivative. So you can definitely have that interaction. If you're pregnant, whatever herbs you're taking, some herbs can cause you to have contractions. So you have to be really careful what medications you're taking. And we have to look them up. We see commercials all the time. We're like, ask your doctor. We're like, I don't really know, but I'm going to have to look that up.
Definitely.
And there's no shame in that.
No. Mm-mm.
Because it is
Be honest.
relatively new at this point, being reintroduced into our medical field.
Right.
So it's no harm in not knowing, but you have to
You have
do
to
a little
want to know.
research. You have to want to know.
Your physician should want to know, and you should have a curious physician.
Well, me, myself, I'm excited about it. I'm just
too.
excited about it because
Because you've
I
seen
know.
it.
Yes.
You've seen it with your own eyes.
Yes, I'm
And that's
excited
what's
about
amazing
it.
to me. I'm not watching this on TV.
Right.
I am seeing people not walking with their canes anymore. Okay? I'm seeing it with my own eyes.
That's important. That's significant. If you see somebody that was in pain and so much pain that they can't walk without a cane, and now all of a sudden they can walk.
And if you've had any
without
kind
a
of
cane.
injury that causes neuropathy, I mean, you don't, as with anything, you don't know things till you go through it. Like having a child or whatever. You can sympathize, or you can
Sympathize is the right
but
word.
you don't know. But so I experienced the neuropathy. I was like, oh my goodness, this is what people mean by
yes.
You kind of say it so cavalierly,
Yeah, definitely.
But it's some, it's a whole nother
Because a neurological pain is totally
It's
different than
different.
a muscular
Really.
pain.
It's different.
It's very
you can't
different.
explain it. You can't really describe
You can't
it.
put
It's
your
just,
finger on it.
It's just pain or the feeling of something moving on you.
And you try to
Nerve.
catch it.
A
Right, but there's
burning.
nothing there.
No, it's
Yeah,
Or the burning, the tingling, the numbness.
Mm-hmm.
People are saying it's going away.
Wow.
These are people I've seen for myself.
Now, what's the strength of cannabis that works, or does
Like I
it
said, that's
vary from
different
person
too.
to person?
It does vary. Some of the research shows that based on history, again, when the animals were fed it and we were getting it in our systems, on average, it was like people were getting 50 milligrams a day. So it said that we should get 50 milligrams a day, and that's if you have nothing going on. So yes, even if you have nothing going on, just like with everything else, is about prevention too. So 50 milligrams a day. But some people may need to take as much as 120 if they're having that neuropathy, if they're having the MS or things like that.
Anxiety and depression.
Anxiety or depression. They may need to have 100 milligrams. But again, you're not going to OD on it. You're not
Well,
going to get
that's
high.
good. You're not going to get high.
Right.
So,
Right.
Like I said,
That's important.
I'm excited.
And it comes in different, like the company I've gotten most of my information as far as learning about it and things. They have a full spectrum, which means it's basically the whole plant in either a liquid or a capsule or a paste. Okay, the whole plant. So the whole plant does have a little bit of THC, but it's less than 0.3%. So you can't do anything with 0.3%. Okay, the hippies proved that in the 60s. They tried to get high off of hemp. They couldn't. They were really disappointed.
I was waiting for you to say that. I've been waiting the whole segment for that.
now, I thought you could get high off of the hemp plant.
You can't get a high off the hemp. There's not enough THC to do anything to you.
Were you ready?
I tried.
You have to go straight to, again, remember the marijuana is majority THC, very little CBD. That's what you have to get for that. But they tried all the hemp they wanted and nothing happened. They might have gone to sleep. That's about it. Right.
So relax, you don't get high. Okay.
So they have the full spectrum, which has the whole plant. But then they also have what's called a pure gold, which is everything but the THC.
Okay.
So there are a lot of different cannabinoids, like I said, over almost 100 of them. So that what we call an entourage effect, like things work better when they're whole families together as opposed to taking it piecemeal apart.
Right.
So if you can get that whole thing, that's best. But, some people work for the government or police officers, they're going to get drug tested. So you need a product that doesn't have any, even the 0.3. They don't need any THC.
So
they can get the pure gold, or they can get the pure, which is just CBD. None of the other cannabis parts, just the CBD.
So if
they
you
can
took
get that.
a drug test and you had CBD
oil
in your system, oil,
Well,
will it show up
it
as
depends. If it's just pure CBD, no. But if it's, like I said, the whole plant, which does have a little bit of THC, if it's a very sensitive drug test, it's going to pick it up.
Okay.
So some places...
You have to explain that, maybe.
Right, and how are you going to explain that for something? You just don't take that one. There are products out there that don't have the THC in it. So, and again, you have to be careful how different companies are extracting their CBD. Are they using chemicals, which can be harmful?
And I think that needs to be said again, because about the oil, that was a good question, Myrna, because some people want to try the oil and they're welcoming this great information. But a lot of people go to work and sometimes they do surprise drug testing.
Right, exactly.
And so, like you say, you're going to explain that. So since you don't have to get a prescription for
Exactly. You have to be careful.
Yeah.
You can't go to the herb store and pick up some CBD that may have some THC, and you work for the police department.
Or you
And
work
you're gonna
for
get
the
drug tested.
airport or airlines. Or,
Right.
Well, they also have certain herbs and food that you're eating that can give you this bad results just as well.
Yeah, because flax has
Seeds, that's
cannabidiol in it. Something else has cannabidiol in it, but there's some, like they say, poppy seeds. You have to be
Right,
careful
because
with.
if you're using it on bread or baking it, you want to try a different flavor in meats or whatever, it will
to be
give you the
careful.
wrong reading.
Yeah, you do have to, and then you have to try to explain that. I don't know,
Some people listen, some won't.
companies
well,
what they do.
maybe regulations will
Change?
lead to this being acceptable at a certain level.
Well, I'm hoping, regulation is good, and then sometimes it's not. So, but, I'm sure it's going to head that way, just like with everything else. You do have to, there are things out there, you just have to be careful. You just have to be really, really careful and do your due diligence. If you see it in the store, don't just buy it. Look at the company and then Google them. Look
it up.
Look up the company. Don't just buy it.
Do your research first.
Yes.
That's always important.
Don't just buy
It
it.
looks like we're going to be going when it comes to applications. Instead of asking if you're on drugs now, they're maybe going to ask, are you taking CBD oil? Think
Right.
about it, because it's going to give you a bad reading.
Right. And then they may have to develop drug tests as far as
Specifically,
levels.
yeah.
Because with CBD, and you're taking that, it's not very much. So maybe it will say very little, more than likely not smoking marijuana. Okay. So they're going to, you have to keep up with technology and stuff.
do.
You have to.
So
Yeah.
not only so
There
not
has to be
only
checks and balances too.
So not only doctors need to be educated, employers
Everybody's gonna need to be educated.
educated as well.
I would think so
Everybody's
because
gonna
you
need to
don't
be
want to lose your
educated.
job over something as simple as
Right.
I used hemp oil. Or I
Right,
used
and your
CBD
employer may
oil.
not even know what CBD is yet, and they're not
Right.
going to look at you like, "What are you talking about?" Yeah,
Exactly.
right. You're fired. So, hopefully not. But yeah, I mean, maybe the test will test. Okay, well, it's coming up positive, but it's so low, it's so faint that
Right,
this
right.
person is not smoking it. It's probably coming from CBD, as opposed to.
There
You know,
need, there
it's
need
really
to be
high.
some new regulations on that for real.
Seriously.
Because, you know, that you'd hate to lose your job,
Because you're trying to be
brother-
healthy.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to be healthy.
That's
well,
amazing.
now that sounds like a federal
And more productive at
penalization.
work.
Very.
They're going to say, "No wonder you've been so great at work."
That's what we would hope. You know, that would be what we would desire.
Right,
to happen.
exactly.
But
Yeah.
that's definitely something to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't want to get penalized, you know, financially.
Financial, yeah, all the
and
way around.
career-wise because of something that you use to try to help yourself.
Right.
I wonder though, would that be some type of discrimination?
I was thinking
How
that
are the
too.
laws going to play into that
Yeah.
as far as discriminating against patients who have certain conditions
Exactly.
that are improved with CBD oil?
Maybe they'll have to, like with some things, you have to bring a doctor's note.
Excuse.
But then what's going to
Not-
happen if your doctor isn't on board with it?
And he don't approve that it's doing anything for you.
Then you have to find a doctor that will.
Right.
There are doctors out there. I'm out there. You know, out there.
This
There are
is
doctors
going to
that
be
will.
good. This is going
You
to be
just have to
good
go find a
because
doctor that will.
think about it. It's a lot of people that needs it and that's going to try it. And then
And they're
there's
going to go to, because it's going to be sold in CVS, Walmart is there. It's just going to be everywhere.
Everywhere.
What's in it? Who are they
But you know,
contracting with?
if it helps us to be a healthier society,
That's
why
what we
not?
want. Exactly.
I mean, I understand that, you know, the pharmaceuticals may not want this because it cuts in on their profits, but really,
But that's unfortunately here. That's what it comes
You
down
still
to.
make money. It may not be
They are a big lobby.
as much.
They are a huge lobby. They put in a lot of money.
But at the end of the day, we have to look at the patients.
Exactly.
Ultimately,
Right.
what's going to give our patients better health outcomes, better quality of lives. That's the thing that we
You
have to
would
think
think.
about.
Yeah.
One would hope.
Yeah, and I think most of us would be willing to write that note. Say,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I've been following this patient. They've had depression, and I okayed them to get to CBD, and they're so much better. And then their employer would say, "Yeah, they are." Okay, so you know.
but we're still not,
And-
but
and
we're
the
still
other-
not hiring them back.
The other
Right,
thing is
right.
PTSD too.
Yes.
Great with PTSD. It's helping the vets like crazy. The veterans, PTSD, and not just the veterans, but all of anybody who has PTSD from whatever reason, trauma in their life, is helping them.
And that's the desired effect. That's what we would like to happen. Something that will keep us healthy.
Yes.
We don't want
mentally
to
and
be
physically.
dependent upon medicine all the time.
Yes.
And, you know, that's the thing. You really would like for things to occur naturally. But then how do we get back to that? You know, we've got
Education.
to really
We have
have
that's what I was
a
talking
strong
about before.
education and lobby for getting back to basics.
Yeah.
So
But like I said, we
question.
drive it.
So,
Right.
question. I'm listening and I'm thinking, okay, now what do we have to do? Now I'm thinking of me. You don't have to have license, but you want to get, like you said, Canaway. I think you said Canaway earlier. Maybe we need to try, I don't know, to order in bulks. We know, you know, what, do we need dealer license so we can get out here and make sure they're getting the proper,
Right.
you know, CBD oil, you know, maybe you need to look into that, or at least I will anyway.
Well, that's one of the goals of Canaway, and they have a lot of programs in place. Their whole goal is to educate everybody.
Mm-hmm.
They want everybody to know about CBD. They want everybody to know that our bodies are made for it. that our bodies are designed. It has receptors in it all over from head to toe for CBD.
And if
they
that
want us
being
to
the
know.
case and it works medicinally, then I'm a strong advocate for it.
Right.
Anything that will
second.
help us to get off all these medicines. You know?
And then hopefully, you feel better, then you feel like exercising. You feel better, then you're more likely to eat better. Because when you don't feel well, you tend to crave the carbs and the junk and all that. But when you feel good and you start moving, then it follows that, okay, now I'm going to start eating better. I'm going to maybe
feel like it
start
gives
drinking
them
water
life all
instead of
over
soda.
again.
Right.
We
Exactly.
were looking, there are so many applications too for hemp. Food processing, flooring.
Yeah,
Flooring?
clothes, everything.
Clothes?
Everything. They used it in just about everything. Thousands and thousands of years.
But the farmers were the ones who were benefiting.
Right. Well, I think
Not
everybody
the
was benefiting.
pharmaceuticals.
Oh, right. Correct.
Okay, so let's see. You do the math.
Right.
And
I'm sorry. Am I allowed to say I can't count that high?
Yeah.
yeah.
And, in the world of sports, so they're not shooting them up with this steroid and that one so they can get back out on the
They know you
field
say
and doing
that.
this. It's the world of sports knows about CBD. Trust me. California, those people, I heard Ice Cube, he wasn't talking about CBD. He was on somebody's show just talking in general about one of his foundations, and he just said one sentence about CBD as part of his conversation, like as if it's nothing.
Right.
Because
right.
everybody knows about it, but everybody doesn't know about it. And I'm sure for people who hadn't heard that, they didn't even pay attention that he said it. But, there are people out there who are doing very well, so we want everybody to do very well.
Also, I know it also helps with menstrual cycles as well. And we was talking about the cancer, and I recall, I don't know why it just keep coming to me, when Coretta was going through what she was going through, she went away because of this oil along with a couple of herbs.
Right.
But, she was already in later stages. But that's what she was
A lot
going
of people do that will
for
go outside to
because it wasn't welcome here at the time.
Yeah, and we have doctors that have done research here on a lot of different things, not just CBD, but other things as far as cancer and other disorders that is hard for them because it's not with the grain.
It's not accepted.
It's not accepted. They have a lot of trouble. It's scary what's out there that we don't know, what we don't know.
Right. Well, we're going to have to take a short break. You're listening to For Your Good, and we have with us today Dr. Janella Thomas Burse, we have Dr. Chivon Stubbs, and we have Nurse Pamela Davis with us today. And we're talking about CBD oil and its impact on Americans and actually across the world, because a lot of us don't know about it, but it is the new trend right about now. And it's helping in a lot of areas, a lot of medicinal areas, autism, cancer, pain, chronic pain,
migraines too. I just said migraines.
Right.
And like you said, cramp, really bad cramps.
Back pain.
Cramps. It's
Back
helping
pain.
with a lot of different
Joints.
things.
Yes.
So, but you have to do your research and make sure that you're getting an acceptable amount of
And
CBD.
pure. How pure is it? How clean is it?
Okay.
Pure and clean.
So then maybe it should be regulated by the federal government. Maybe. Or maybe not. Or maybe not.
I do have some.
You have samples. Oh,
We have
goodies.
samples. Yay.
Let's go to break. Okay.
We're going to go to break and we're going to come back and we're going to talk about immunizations. I'm Myrna Taylor Ransom. We'll be back shortly.
I do have some salve.